Hello everybody, how's it going and welcome back to the As Always podcast. This is episode 169. I'm one of your hosts, James, and I'm joined as always by Tyler.
As always, how's it going, my friend?
It's going pretty good. How you doing?
Not too bad. Not too bad. Happy to be here. Excited to be here for this episode of the As Always podcast. Lots to talk about, which is always exciting. What's going on with you? What's new? What's happening?
What is happening? Good question.
I haven't chatted in a while.
We've not chatted in a while.
I've done Clubhouse by myself. I'm not sure if you listened to any of it. It was fucking ridiculous.
I did not listen to it, no.
I'll have to tell you about it in the next episode because I did the travel show without you. I had to do like something.
I
for
did.
content.
I did see that. I did see people discussing it, which is you know, that's good. It is the only segment that is, you know, worthwhile.
It's really Clubhouse has
it's
become...
the best thing we do.
It's right, and honestly, it was still fucking hilarious.
That's great. That's good.
It was the worst place we've gone to south. I went to South Dakota, went to the town of Winner, and went to this awful fucking cafe. Like I actually gagged on the podcast.
Oh no!
I actually almost threw up. I'm a visual person. I can think of things to gag, but I saw this bowl of diarrhea and I almost threw up. Diarrhea and grilled cheese.
Oh my God.
Shout out to Clubhouse over on patreon.com/as always. So if you like what you're listening to here and you want to hear or see more, head over to patreon.com/as always. And you get exclusive access to the best podcast on the internet, the Clubhouse podcast. There's over 145 episodes right now that you can go stream for just as little as $1 a month. Or 10% off if you do an annual subscription. Head over there, check it out, and thank you to our producers that make the show happen. That's Baron Keane, Damien the Nutter, Orange Gnome, Ferentino, Flash Paradox, Ollie Olberick, King Richard III, Ryan Hafer, and Ballsack47. Thank you, Sweet Vintage Lads, for helping power this podcast. All right, James. So, this episode of the As Always podcast, got a few things to go through. We've got, again, full spoilers for House of the Dragon, episode 2 and episode 3. That's why we delayed this. As always, again, I assume we're going to, throughout House of Dragon, we're just going to keep delaying it so we can cover the most up-to-date 2 episodes since it's an every fortnight show. And we'll talk a bit about the Rings of Power. I have just, as we're talking right now, publishing my first lore breakdown of episode 1 and 2 of the Rings of Power, Lord of the Rings show on Amazon, where I go full in depth, but I would like to talk to you about that as well. I assume we'll probably do that before. We'll leave House of Dragons to the end. Is there anything else going on? Is there any other news? Anything I should know about in the world of, I don't know, games and TV? I don't really follow games anymore.
I don't think so.
I don't know what's going on? What's coming out? The Last of Us came out, didn't it?
The Last of Us came out, yes.
What was that like? Is that good? Was that fun?
Yeah, I had a good time with it. I thought it was great. It was fun to replay it, having it looking like The Last of Us Part 2. It added a lot more emotion to so many of the scenes that I didn't think. Like I'm already obviously emotionally invested in The Last of Us, but there's so many moments where when you get to see like the performances really shine through on, you know, in graphics that look like The Last of Us Part 2. It was it was really, really good to like see that game in like a sort of experience a lot of the emotional beats again for the first time, which was really, really cool. And in terms of like, you know, combat encounters and stuff, the enhanced AI that like is way more aggressive made it so different. Like I felt like in a lot of the encounters, I was going to like areas of the scenario space that I didn't go to before and like interacting with it a bit differently. Just because like the enemies were so aggressive that you sort of have to, you know, think about where you are a little bit more, which made it, you know, more fun and sort of made it a new experience. So I thought it was really, really good, and I had a good time with it. So yeah, it was fun.
That's awesome. Would you recommend checking it out? I guess because I love The Last of Us Part 2. Love Last of Us Part 2, and I really like the first one. So adding the emotion to the scenes, that's really great. Gameplay wise, mechanic wise. When you say different, how different does it feel?
I think the gameplay remains fairly unchanged. I'd say it's a bit more responsive, and the main thing is the AI being changed sort of just forces you to play a bit differently in different situations, which I think is a big thing. But
did they add anything story-wise, or was it simply just...
No, it was exactly the same.
Yeah.
But I mean, they add things like... In terms of gameplay, like the workbenches now will have like the Last of Us Part 2 animations, which is nice, and stuff like that. They got like a bunch of like little like collectibles and unlockables and things like that, which is nice. Naughty Dog do that in like Nathan Drake Collection had it, Uncharted 4 had it, and I assume Last of Us Part 2 had it as well. But yeah, I mean, it's something that I would recommend playing. It just depends on whether, you know, the person like who's going to play it thinks that the $70 price tag is worth that product or not, I guess. But I think there's no question about the level of effort and care that went into making it. It just depends whether you think, do I want to pay $70 to play a story I've already played that's like the definitive version of that? If the answer's no, then obviously, you know, wait for it to go on sale or whatever. But, you know, for me, I love The Last of Us. I love this story so much. And I also just love playing the game too. I feel like it plays well. And I do think the AI changes enhance the combat scenarios enough that it did feel like a new experience while still playing like The Last of Us. And also the PS5 controller stuff, like the haptic feedback and the adaptive triggers, it was so fucking good. Like there was tiny little things like cars passing by in the distance, you'd like feel it on the controller, but it would like feel like it felt like a distant rumble. It was like so weird. And like, you know, gun reloads and like the workbench stuff and like just shooting a weapon like felt different from weapon to weapon. It's really cool. So yeah, no, I'd recommend playing it. I think it's really cool and good, and I enjoyed it. So
yeah,
it's
awesome. I mean, maybe one day I'll do it. I mean, I'd like to. I mean, it looked fantastic visually, and I'd love to revisit part 1 especially after part 2, and that was such a awesome experience. There's something I wanted to bring up to you actually that's in pop culture that I saw today. And it might be old news, but have you heard of the Olivia Wilde movie, Don't Worry Darling, I think's the name of it? It's got Florence Pugh, Harry Styles in it.
I think I have seen a trailer for it or something.
Yeah, I remember seeing a trailer. I'm like, this looks interesting. I mean, I love Florence Pugh. But the drama behind this fucking movie is out of this world.
Really? Why?
Well, because Olivia Wilde had an affair with Harry Styles on the set. She's the director, and also acts in it. As well, I'm just trying to find the video. Florence Pugh didn't want to do or isn't going to be involved in any press conferences, but she was at the red carpet. So apparently there's some drama there that she didn't enjoy being on the set at all.
Interesting.
And Chris Pine is also in the movie, and apparently just no one got along. These are all rumors, speculation. But at the premiere today at a film festival, I think it's in Venice. There's a video that looks like Harry Styles spits on Chris Pine.
Right.
When he goes to take his seat.
No
dude.
way. Is that a real thing that happens? There's no way. That's so dumb.
Yeah.
Could you imagine? There's no way.
Dude,
that's what
I
actually
think
happens.
he did. I think he did.
Send me this link. I gotta see this.
I think he did. Watch him, how subtle it is. Now, Harry comes down, and as he goes to sit down, looks like he spits, and watch Chris stop clapping. Now, you tell me when you got the video up.
Okay, hold on. It's just loading. Fuck me. Come on. Let's go.
Right.
Holy shit, Twitter. Let's load.
Mate, what the fuck?
All I can see is a blue bird in the middle of my screen. It won't. Fuck it. Let me try refreshing. What the fuck? Why is it not working? Oh, here we go. I got it. Okay. Right. Let's see this here.
All right. Yeah.
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah.
Now watch Harry as he goes sit down and watch Chris's face. Okay. 3, 2, 1, play. Now he goes to sit down. Spit right there. Watch Chris stop.
Wait, what?
And he just sort of laughs it off. Harry acts like nothing. Doesn't even look at Chris. And then just sort of sits back.
There's no way that's what happened. That must just be
like
dude,
a super watch him spit.
Close
Watch
coincidence.
Harry. Watch Harry. Watch Harry.
Why
do
would
it.
he do that?
Watch it back. Keep watching it.
I'm looking at it, and I can definitely see like it almost. It does, but like, why would he do that?
yeah, we don't know because apparently they all hate each other. Who knows what happened behind the scenes?
Nah.
Especially with Olivia Wilde, who's sitting there, who cheated on her husband, had an affair with Harry Styles on set. Chris might have said some shit behind the scenes and been like, Harry, I think you're a fucking little shit, or something like that. I don't know.
But wouldn't they have had a fight there and then? Like, why would he just wait until this moment and do that?
Because Chris is like, we're not going to do it. We're not going to, like, stoop to his level. I think he looked like he couldn't believe he did it. Like, he's laughing like, I can't believe this motherfucker just spat on me. Because watch the timing of not just when Harry gets a spit, but Chris looks straight down at where he spat on him, stops clapping, does the, no fucking way, this fucking kid. As soon as we get behind cameras, I'm going to beat the fuck out of him. That's what it looks like to me.
Why would he... I don't know. I cannot just believe that based on this really...
compelling
video.
What do you mean by weird video? Does it look like he's spitting?
But why would he do that?
No, James. I'm asking you a question. What does it look like happened in the video? You tell me what happens in the video. I'm not alleging anything. I'm asking you, what do you see happen in the video? I saw him do it, and I see Chris react to him doing it. And Harry's acting way too like nonchalant, like overly nonchalant, like, hey, nothing happened.
I just don't buy it. I'm like, nah, there's got to be another explanation for why the video looks like that. Just a huge coincidence.
That Chris did that when but Harry looks like he spits. It's not just like, watch him. He even does the mouth movement. I've watched this 50 times. I've watched it 50 times.
I don't know. Like, yeah, it does look like it, doesn't it? But I just think that's just so, like, that's just would be so mental.
Yeah, bizarre.
What the hell? That's so weird.
Yeah. Yeah. Because he puts... First thing Chris does, you just watch what Chris does. He puts down the glasses he's holding. Starts clapping. Sees the spit down there. Stops clapping. No way. Picks up the glasses and laughs. Like, no fucking way that just happened. I'm just saying, bro. And I want to see this movie just...
There's a video here of, like, later on in the fucking whatever they were doing. And, like, both Chris and Harry are just chatting to each other and having a laugh.
Yeah. Yeah, they would do that in front of the cameras, wouldn't they? They would do that in front of the cameras.
No, but they're like the camera's like panning around. It's not even like a camera. It's like taken on a phone.
Yeah. Well, they know everyone's watching.
But if they knew everyone was watching and they're gonna play nice for the entire thing, why would he spit on him? That makes no sense.
It was the most subtle spit I've ever seen, but a spit's a spit, and I'm calling a spit a spit.
Nah,
let's call a spit a spit.
I don't fucking buy that shit. That didn't happen.
You don't think he spat on him?
Nah, no.
What do you tell me else? Give me even one alternative situation of what could have just happened there, of what we saw, and I'll take it all back. I'll take it all back. If
I don't know, man. I can't tell you. I just
you couldn't tell me one compelling scenario.
His face just looked like he was spitting, and he wasn't. Like, I don't know. That to me, that's more plausible than Harry Styles spat on him. At an event.
Not even close. These guys are all scumbags behind the scenes. They're all awful people. They all want you guys dead and me dead. They hate everyone. We're the mass unwashed to them, and. You know, ultimately, they all worship owls at night. You know, they all worship big owl statues.
You don't worship owls?
And you know, they're all really, anyway, just wanting to be pedophile vampires from the fifth dimension anyway. So, if you want to believe that Harry's just some great guy...
Look, I just don't believe that video is undisputed proof that he spat him. I just don't.
That video's compelling evidence.
I cannot take that and run with it. I cannot. You can't even see the spit. Like,
I'm going to continue to spit on the internet here on my podcast.
Oh, that's so weird. That's so weird.
I'm just saying. Am I wrong? I don't think I'm wrong. You know?
I keep watching. I just. It does look like it, man.
There it is. Thank you very much for saying it. It does look like it.
But I still don't. I just don't think he did.
Yeah. Anyway, I am open to anything. I'm open to other evidence, but so far what I've seen is a bunch of casts that apparently rumors say allegedly hate each other. Apparently there's dramas all over the set. Florence Pugh doesn't even want to be there. Doesn't feel safe, according to rumors. And Harry Styles spits on Chris Pine after having an affair with Olivia Wilde, the director of said film. Look, to me, where there's smoke, there's fire. Do I believe Harry could do a subtle spit on someone? Yeah, I fucking definitely do. That's not that far-fetched to me to believe. Does he make great music?
Wild.
Sure he does. You know, he makes decent enough music. That's about it, you know?
I just think that's such a weird concept. And also, I don't know, I just don't feel like Harry Styles would do that. I don't know.
You would, you little fucking
he's a
cuck, wouldn't you?
You just know, fucking all evidence we have of Harry Styles is that he's like a nice guy. So like,
is that the only evidence? I don't think that's the only evidence we have of him, is it?
I mean, find me something where Harry Styles is being a horrible person.
He knowingly had an affair with a married woman, James.
No, but I mean,
on the set of a film he was employed to work on.
Yeah, but that's her fault, you know. that's on the woman.
Why is it her fault? Oh, it's because the woman. Yeah. Okay. I knew you were going to say that too. I fucking knew you were going to say that.
Hey, look.
I should...
Look, it's a bit fucked up. But it also is like he's not married.
That's just life, isn't it? You know?
If she wants to fucking sin, then, you know,
yeah.
for it.
That's true. It is her sin. And she goes to hell.
Exactly. As far as I know, spitting on someone's not a sin. I'd probably say somewhere in the Bible it says that's like, maybe you should do it.
I mean, if Chris Pine's gay, then that's fine.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, according to the Bible, not you.
That out of context sounds so bad. We're talking about the Bible. Yeah, we're talking about
cancel
the Bible says.
The Bible, man, not us.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would cancel the Bible. I wish it was canceled.
If the Bible had a Twitter account, I would start a hashtag. So,
I mean,
but
me too. Yeah.
But it doesn't, sadly. So it's safe.
Unfortunately, not
of all consequence. Yeah. That was interesting, though. I'm glad you brought it up because
I thought it was an interesting thing to share. I saw it today, and I just was like, I want to get James's thoughts on this.
I'm now going to watch this clip over and over again.
I need to know what's going on, what's in his head, what's he thinking.
Yeah, I need to know. I need to know. And if he didn't spit on him, I need to know what happened. What actually happened.
And if you find out, let me know.
I will.
Because I want to know.
I'm going to stay on the case.
Yeah. Keep an eye out, James. Keep an eye out, everyone. Don't worry about it. James keeping an eye out.
I am.
Now, I want to talk about the Rings of Power for a bit. I don't necessarily want to... Like, I'll talk, but I want to hear your thoughts, but I also want to be a bit of like... I've obviously just done... If you want to hear my deep dive thoughts, lore breakdowns, got an hour video here on the Four Pillars Network where I do that for the first 2 episodes. And we'll be doing that for every episode, though I'll be traveling for... some time, and I'll probably just do bits on my phone when I can, so episode 4 and 5 might be a bit in quality, but I'll still do it. But I want to field any questions that you may have of this show that maybe didn't make sense to you, if you're like in context to the Lord of the Rings. Because out of context, if you're someone that's... You've seen the Lord of the Rings movie, you've seen the Hobbit movies, right?
Yeah.
You're a fan, you like it, but beyond that, you've never read the books, you're not a Tolkien expert, you've played the non-canon games that who gives a fuck about,
yeah,
and they're useless wastes of space. So I want to sort of get your thoughts on what you thought of the Rings of Power, and then field any questions that you may have about the show.
All right, well, I thought it was good. I honestly was in the lead up to it expecting it to be not good. Mainly because all the discourse on Twitter was like, just like, oh, this is so shit. It's gonna be fucking bad.
When really, it's just turned out to be full incels, and it was one of the most obvious incel-led hate review bombs I've ever seen.
Yeah, because
they were all trying to do it well before it even came out. It's like, how is it possible for the show objectively to be bad if? And really, it's just like, and really, it's just because there's black people and women everywhere, and these kids fucking hate it. They can't stand it. It's fucking absurd.
It's wild. It's like,
and anyone
really
saying it's like,
now.
no, it's against Tolkien. I know fucking Tolkien. You're a fucking moron. There's nothing to do with Tolkien. Like, I thought maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they know something I don't. Then I watched it. I'm like, this isn't against Tolkien. And anyone that says it is, you are shielding yourself. You're honestly shielding yourself when really you're more than likely a fucking misogynist racist.
Yeah, well, that's what people do.
And I don't like throwing that out there because that's like, I hate when people throw that at people when there's a legitimate criticism. But I'm like, I am a hardcore Lord of the Rings Tolkien fan. I don't know what you're talking about. No, it's not perfect, but I don't know what you're talking about. To like talk shit that like Galadriel, like, oh, they're just women, every man's Elon Musk tweeted every man's dumb. I'm like, that's the dumbest shit I've ever fucking heard. You obviously didn't watch the show, and he's only doing that to pump up all the incels anyway. Like, he doesn't care about the Lord of the Rings. Tolkien's rolling in his grave. I'm like, did you watch the show? Is Elrond and Durin the two best bros ever? Not like two great male characters that were awesome? I'm like, what do you mean? What are you referring to? Who are you referring to?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. That's my little rant, but yeah, go on. You were expecting it to be shit.
Yeah, I was expecting it to suck. And I went into it sort of just super low expectations. But no, I really liked it. I thought it was great. I think visually it looks really nice. I think you can like tell that it's got a high budget, which is like, it just looks really
Is it the best looking show of all time from television? I think so.
Possibly, yeah.
Visually.
I think it looks
it makes Game of Thrones look like it was made for $10.
Yeah, it's wild. Like, you can see
it does.
So many little details in there. It just looks really like just very, very polished. And I think it's crazy because you've also seen a lot of people being like, oh my god, I can't believe this had this much money go into it. It looks so bad. I'm like, did we watch the same thing? Like, it's
hands down the best looking show I've ever seen.
Yeah. It looks absolutely fantastic, and it really
costumes maybe were too clean in some parts, but it's so not like to any point that I feel that it matters that much. Like, yeah, you can point it out, fair enough. But to be like, oh, it looks cheap. It doesn't. It looks so expensive. Yeah, I'm like, this looks like something you'd go to the movies and it's one of the top movies you'd see in terms of budget.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it feels, I think, in terms of like costume design and stuff, like looking too clean, I think, when you compare it to something like Game of Thrones is like a more gritty take on fantasy. I feel like Lord of the Rings is a bit more refined in that way. And I don't know, it didn't take me out of it. I didn't think, oh, this looks weird. I was like, no, I feel like it makes sense. The design of everything, I don't know, it reminded me of Lord of the Rings, the films, without also being so close that it felt like a direct, like they were just going to copy it straight. It was like, no, it has its own identity because, well, it's a separate thing, but also because like it's set at a completely different point in the history of the universe. And
did you think it
worked?
Did you feel like it could have been in the same world as the movies? Like, did you feel that way?
Oh, definitely. But it felt like at a different point. Like, it felt almost to me like how convincing something like, well, probably more so because it's obviously an old game, but Knights of the Old Republic feels like Star Wars, but you can definitely tell it's like a completely different period in the history of that world, just because of like, the way that everything is so different, but also recognizable at the same time, which I thought was really cool. And I just think it did a really good job to establish itself, establish its world, its characters, and a lot of concepts, and just sort of, put those out there, build on it, and get going. I just thought it was just really just a solid start with the first two episodes, for all things like story, character, and the world building and everything. Just really, really good so far as just like a television show.
Yeah. No, I love that. I like, again, it wasn't perfect. I thought some pacing was off. Some people were saying it felt too fast. I felt it was too slow, maybe because I sort of knew a lot of the story. I just loved that there was so many points I never thought as a Tolkien fan I'd see on screen that I got to see. Like even just the prologue, that first 7 minutes, having Galadriel narrate the prologue of the First Age and the events of the First Age of Middle-earth and the world in as a whole, in the same way that Galadriel narrates the prologue in The Lord of the Rings, telling the end of the Second Age. And now we're in the Second Age, and likelihood 5 seasons end, it wraps up at the exact point of which the prologue ends within the Lord of the Rings films, and totally ties back into the Lord of the Rings films, and will be that sort of prequel in some ways, or the story of that prologue that sets up where the world then is a few thousand years later. Because obviously it's 3,000 years or thereabouts before the events of the Lord of the Rings. And it's why you need a character like Galadriel and Elrond to lead the way, right? Because you need characters that exist within that world and only elves would. There's men that we're going to see within the next few episodes when we head to Númenor, when we see the King Elendil, we see Isildur, and those sorts of characters. And there's these new characters we haven't heard of that I'm not really sure where they're going. What storyline is standing out to you the most right now?
That's a good question. I don't know. The most. I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, maybe this one. But then whenever it jumped to like a different one, it was also really good. I don't know. I'm quite invested in all of them sort of equally. I don't think there was anyone that like stood out above the rest as like very clearly more interesting for me. I think I enjoyed whenever it jumped around. I was like, oh, we get to see more of this thing. And then it jump again, and it's like, oh, it's good to be back on this one again. So I think they're doing well to balance it, in my opinion, to sort of just keep me invested in all the things that are going on in the world, which I think it could be difficult to do. But I think they've sort of nailed that for me, at least, in the first 2 episodes. Maybe there'll be one that comes out above the rest, in later episodes. But I think so far, I think it's got a pretty good balance.
And they're obviously all quite far apart within the expansive world that is Middle-earth, but they somehow feel sort of tied in, that you feel like there's something going on within the world, a dark force that's rising. And obviously Galadriel keeps talking about Sauron. We see Elrond's side of things, and that's going to, and Celebrimbor, and if you know some of the lore of the Lord of the Rings, how that's going to connect to the darkness that's rising. And then the other 2 storylines, we have the Southlands, where we see sort of the core of where it's happening, the orcs rising. And that's where it's actually happening. And then you've got,
that was cool,
the Half-Foots, where they're noticing things that are a bit off, like wolves and hunters coming before the time normally in the season that they travel that way. And what are your thoughts on the Half-Foots? Because in Tolkien lore, there's not a lot known of the hobbits in those days, so this is all sort of made up. I'm curious to know what's your vibe from the Half-Foots, aka the hobbits.
Yeah, I really like the Half-Foots. I think they've got a nice like charm to them. Obviously, very like reminiscent of hobbits in like a sort of like that sense of like, they live in the country. They're just sort of like nice. There's like a comfort to them.
It feels like home, eh? Like I just sort of think of the vibe. Like you can't have a Lord of the Rings show and have it feel like home without having some sort of hobbit feeling, and it definitely came across with the soundtrack is spectacular.
It's very good.
Show.
Yeah, really
good. Bear McCreary of God of War fame, and when I realized, so last week I was working from home and I just had the soundtrack playing on the speakers because they'd released the soundtrack. I just had lit some candles, soundtrack playing all day. And I noticed the first track is the main theme, and then I saw the name Howard fucking Shore.
Yeah.
As in composer of the Lord of the Rings trilogy and the Hobbit trilogy. And it felt like, I'm like, there we go. He gives us that doorway into Middle-earth. And then Bear McCreary, I feel like, took the sounds that Howard Shore's made and then made his own, but keeps it in. Like, Galadriel's theme uses a lot of those Howard Shore themes from that main theme song, but that was Ben McCreary that composed that. And what he did with the Half-Foots I really enjoyed. Didn't copy sort of like the Hobbit music, gave it its own sort of feel, but it still felt very homely. And I liked even the negative things about hobbits that felt included. They're nosy and judgmental, and you felt that from like the sort of old snarky ladies of the group. And I did love that. But then you have Nori, who is sort of our main protagonist of that storyline, who felt very much like, looks like a female Elijah Wood, looks like Frodo, the short,
a little bit
brunette curly hair and got the big blue eyes, but she's got that sense of adventure that we love from our main Hobbit characters, that sense that there's something more out there, and I love that. And I'm curious to know, I won't give you too many of my thoughts unless you want to know, but of this character, this meteor man that arrived.
Oh yeah.
Who do you think it is?
I couldn't say. I literally.
Did you think it was anyone? Were you all like, is it this? Is it that?
No, I was just like, I do not know who this guy is.
Interesting.
Which is interesting. It's fun, you know.
Okay.
They'll explore that, reveal that. It'll be
do you
be
think
cool to explore.
Good or evil? You know. Good or evil's, I guess, my follow-up question.
I think they're. I don't know. I think the way they've framed it is like they're trying to show like this guy is like a bit unaware of like who he is or what's going on, but like every so often he does something and you're like, oh, that was a bit menacing, but then sort of like falls back. So it's kind of like going back and forth. So I'm like, oh, I don't know whether he's like a a good bloke or not, but I feel like it'll land on being a good guy. I feel like, in the end, but who knows.
Yep, I appreciate that. I'm leaning bad. I said my review 65% bad, 35% good. And if it's a good character, I think I know exactly who it is. But if it's bad, there's a lot of options there. And there's a lot of reasons for both. There's hints for both. Yeah. I just feel there's way stronger hints for bad.
Okay.
Way stronger hints for bad. One of the lines being in the first episode, Galadriel says, or one of the elves says, oh, I can't feel my hand. And she goes, no, it's so evil that the torches don't give off any heat. And then when Nori touches the fire, she goes, it's not giving off any heat.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that's fucking some evil shit going on. And then also, I'm pretty sure the language of Mordor keeps getting spoken. Every time he uses magic, there's like the music going on. And at one point they use Sauron's theme. And it has, I definitely hear the language of Mordor, and the firefly kills the fucking fireflies as well. Yeah. Like that just felt evil.
Maybe it's a red herring. Maybe it's like
that's right. Like, but then he also carves a fucking symbol in the tree, and I'm like, that's the same symbol Gandalf carves into Bilbo's door in The Hobbit.
Oh yes, I did see that.
And also, if it was, let's say it was Gandalf. The Hobbit connection too. You know, not that that's a, you know, I said in my video, the Grey Wizard, their job is to be friends with all of the peoples of Middle-earth, man, dwarf, elf, hobbit, everyone. So that's why he has relationships with everyone. But in terms of audience that's from the movies connection, they know Gandalf as friend of the Hobbit. So it just feels like that familiarity of why he has such a soft touch to them if they were the first people he met if he entered Middle-earth. So I can see how that's also a thing.
Yeah.
Definitely a Maya, definitely from Valinor. That's where the meteors come from. Definitely a Maya, definitely got some magic shit. Could be another wizard. Could be something else entirely. I don't know, but I still don't know whether good or evil. I'm still leaning towards evil.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting, and I like that. I like that they've set this up as it was very interesting little plot point they've sort of started on there, which I think was just like, it's just like kind of like a fun route to take, and I think it then makes gives that half of the storyline some sort of like bigger weight to it, to like tie it into what's going on in the world as well, which I think was I think it's good. I'm a fan of that.
Yeah, really good. The only storyline I was a bit on was probably the Southlands. And it's not really story. I actually like the storyline. I just don't love the characters all that much. I'm not really compelled by the characters yet. They're trying to do the elf woman, the elf to man romance.
I thought it worked. Or at least
it does not work yet. I'm just not sold on it yet. It's not that I don't hate it. I'm just not quite there yet. Theo's a little cunt, that little shithead kid. But
I think that's good though. I like that. I like that he is like a cunt, because it's It's
Yeah.
you know, I think that's
I
like
get what you're saying.
it's well written to be like that, I guess. So I kind of like that.
I love Galadriel. She's fucking fantastic.
Yeah, I like
and
her
the
a lot.
actress that's playing her is amazing. Just feels like Cate Blanchett, just younger. And there's so many little lore tidbits and things. I'm just like, oh, I love that they're talking about that. Like when Celebrimbor and Elrond are speaking, and he talks about Fëanor and the Silmarils and his hammer. I'm like literally coming in my pants with just nerd Tolkien energy, and that bit of dialogue about Morgoth staring into the Silmarils after he stopped. Like I'm just like, oh, this is Silmarillion stuff. I love it.
Yeah, right.
But I love Durin and Elrond's relationship. The conversations and the theme of mortality versus immortality within that world is so prevalent within the books, and not just Lord of the Rings books, but the expanded universe. It's such a massive theme. It may be the most important theme Tolkien writes about. Is the way, like, it's the reason why the only time elf, dwarves, men fight together is against a great evil. They don't like each other most of the time through history, and it's not because one's bad, one's good. It's because they have no idea how to relate to each other because they don't view the world the same. Because you've got the burden of mortality and the love you have for the world that exists with men and dwarf and what they love about the world, the dwarves and their mines and their mountains and men and the forest, the trees, the fields, the cities, their cultures, and the elves that are burdened with living forever within it. And they just view the mortality and immortality. They view the world so differently. They love differently. They view death differently. It's just so different. And to actually see that properly explored in a really compelling way in terms of a friendship with Durin and Elrond, I loved it. I loved it. It was my favorite part of the 2 episodes was these two together. I loved the build up to it. I loved their dialogue. I loved Durin as a character. It was my favorite, maybe, portrayal of dwarves within Middle-earth. Because I don't think, like, Gimli's the best dwarf. There's no argument there. But we didn't get to see dwarves in their prime, and within The Hobbit, I feel this was better than it in terms of the way it portrayed dwarves. To see a bit more of the culture in a more living, breathing way, rather than just having a bunch of focal characters and not expanding beyond that. Like, this really felt like we got to spend time in the dwarves' world, got to see a bit of their culture, a bit of their traditions as well, without them having to, like, explain it to you in word vomit that The Hobbit sometimes did, the Hobbit film specifically. Whereas this felt like you just walked into a dwarven city and things happened and you understood. You're like, oh, okay, this is obviously a dwarven tradition. They didn't be like, the great dwarven tradition of this. It's oh, wow, we're doing this now and that's really cool. And you got the attitude, you got the characters. And then I love that you realize this hard exterior of Durin the Fourth, this relation and ancestor of Thorin Oakenshield down the road towards the Hobbit thousands of years later. He's actually a softie that just loves Elrond deep down. He's just so hurt by his friend. And Elrond thinks, I don't get it. It's just been 20 years, not a big deal. And that whole dialogue I just loved. And eventually they found that common ground and understood and had empathy for each other's positions. And clearly Durin loves him. He grew the tree in his home. His wife was hilarious. Like, I just loved all of it. I loved all of it. And there was even some setup that there's some stuff with the dwarves there. And Elrond's obviously trying to use the dwarves to build the Great Forge for Celebrimbor for some things he's going to do later. That's very exciting and certainly important to a show titled The Rings of Power. But yeah, I really loved that. Really loved it.
Yeah, I think it was interesting seeing Celebrimbor, given my only exposure to him is from Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War, where he is
those aren't real and they
different.
don't count. They don't count. They're not real.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Like to have like he's so different in this show to what I've seen from him in those games. So it's like just such a weird like thing to get used to because he's just like this like absolutely mental kind of evil fucking like badass in Shadow of Mordor where he's just like just absolutely just like destroying orcs left, right, and center. But no, I thought he had good like characterization for the small time that he was in this though.
I mean, his motivation was brilliant. His motivation being, I want to create something greater than my grandfather did. Fëanor, the greatest elf that's ever lived, who created the Silmarils from the light of the trees, the great trees of Valinor, and that's the real reason the Noldor elves went to Middle-earth. They don't give a fuck about the trees dying. The Silmarils got stolen. That's the real reason they left. They fucking hated the Valar. But doesn't matter. Went over it. Loved seeing most of what was there in the pro. Like I in my head, and this is what I say about anything that when you translate it from a book to television is, if you don't, just because they don't say it happened doesn't mean it didn't happen within the world.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I'm like, if they address it and it's wrong, that's one thing. But if they just don't address it, you're like, well, obviously that does happen, and they're talking about this and not that.
Yeah.
And we know they don't have the rights to the Silmarillion. That's why they couldn't tell those stories. They only have the rights to the Lord of the Rings, and whatever's mentioned from the Silmarillion that's mentioned in the Return of the King appendices can be used, but everything else can't. So they couldn't go into all the detail. But I like how they explained it and showed most of it. And to me, in my head, I'm still like, well, all those events still happen. They just sort of quickly going over it and visually showed you some really cool Easter eggs. But again, go check out my video on the Four Pillars Network if you want to know more.
Go check it out.
Go check it out. Check it out. Yeah, really, really digging it. But just Celebrimbor's motivation being he wants to outdo and create something greater than the Silmarils. I'm like, yes, this is going to have such a good payoff.
Yeah.
And just to reference important characters like that is just exciting. Was there anything that confused you, or you felt like you're like, I know where we're at, I know what's going on?
I don't think so, mate. Probably because I mean, like, I don't know. I'm not big into Lord of the Rings. So like, obviously, I knew the characters that had appeared in, you know, the Lord of the Rings, like Galadriel and Elrond.
Yeah.
And I think I sort of understand where we're at. I understand sort of the state of the world as they've set it up so far. I don't think there was anything where I was like, oh, I really don't understand this, because I guess I'm thinking, well, anything I'm not like 100% on, the show will explore as it goes.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So anything I don't know is just stuff the show hasn't necessarily talked about, I would think. So like stuff like, you know, that I'm sure you go over in your lore video where you go over everything. To sort of like, you know, expand on that and go through that and stuff. But I think the show's done a good job of establishing what it needs to establish for the story that it's telling, and anything else will be expanded upon as they continue to go. But yeah, no, I think they've done a good job. I don't feel lost. I don't feel like out of it. I don't feel like I'm left behind because I haven't read the books and stuff. I feel like the show has done like its job to lead me into this era of Middle-earth and the world and everything. So no, I think overall I'm pretty happy with where we're at. I think I'm feeling pretty comfortable. Yeah,
me too. I'm super I'm really relieved more than anything. I just love them, and I love just being back in the world because the obviously the sets are amazing. The landscape of New Zealand they filmed in for this season's incredible. The soundtrack sells it. You got some great actors. The sets, costume designs, everything. Like the Half-Foot's making us feel like home with the hobbits. The elves being just seeing their sort of culture, more of their cities is fantastic. And yeah, I just feel like I'm back in the world. It feels like enough like Lord of the Rings, and also something in its own right. I can't wait for more. It's not perfect. It's not like Lord of the Rings perfect, but it's really good. And I'm relieved. I'm relieved right now.
Yeah.
Super relieved.
It's good. I'm vibing with it.
And we operate on vibes. That's good. That's fantastic.
We do that.
Okay, so I guess the main subject, tail end of this episode, SpoilerCast for episode 2 and 3 of Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon. Speaking of, there's something I want to talk about from this show, but I do want to ask about it with the Lord of the Rings, their opening title for episode 2. Did you like it?
For Rings of Power, it was it was fine.
Yeah.
Just like I didn't think it was like bad, but I didn't think it was like incredible either. It's just like,
okay.
Yep. Fine.
It's the Howard Shore music that does it for me.
Yeah, it's the music. The music's really good. Visually, it's like whatever.
Yeah. And what about, I mean, let's get into it. House of the Dragon, episode 2 starts off with their intro title. Are you happy that they kept the exact same, the exact same intro theme song? I'm stoked personally. I don't know about you.
I think it's cheap. I would have preferred the same theme, but just mix it a bit differently. Just make it sound a bit different. Just a little bit. But they've literally copy-pasted the exact same music, and I just think that's, I don't know, thematically weird. I feel like you can use the same melody and you can use the same structuring of the track, but, like, just change it a bit, Just make it sound like it is a different era, Just a little bit. Which I think was just, like, a bit of a cop-out. It doesn't, like, ruin the show or anything, but if I were to do it myself, that's what I would have done. Just done a slightly different rendition of it.
Okay.
Sort of like a bit of a different arrangement, but,
Yeah.
it is what it is.
I think that's what I was expecting, was a different arrangement, but look, I'm happy that it's the same, personally, as long as they did a different visual. But the visual's not nearly as good as the original Game of Thrones. I think all it's got going for it is the fact that it's the same song, and I'll still watch it every time.
And I think the thing with the intro is, in Game of Thrones, the intro was every single episode. It was gonna, well, not every single episode, but every time there was something worth changing, it would change. Or if there was a new location we'd visited that we found out about, like, to just really world build. So it sort of established everything in Westeros, which I just thought was that's like one of the coolest things about the intro, is that it wasn't just an intro. It was like setting up, like, okay, like, here's all of the places, and, like, this is what all the places we've been able to visit so far in the show, and, the places change depending on stuff that's happened in the plot. Like, you get to see them, like, stuff changes throughout the intro depending on the storyline, which was just great. Like, the intro perfectly worked to, like, just build up the world. With this one, you can't really do that, because it's just, like, the bloodlines of, like, it's just like a big family tree or whatever with using blood. So it's like, how do you... will that change? Maybe they can, like... I don't know, but...
Yeah.
Not really, because this is, like, showing, like, the history of the house, right? So it's like, it's not going to change. All that's going to change is the newest people, but, like, we don't really see that. So it's... Yeah... I don't think it's great, and honestly, I'd be fine if they just changed it. To be honest, if they did decide to go for season 2, let's do something else. I'd be like, try, go on, give it a go. Just give it a go.
I get it. Too late now. It is what it is.
I don't think it's too late. I think you could change it. I reckon that if they were going to,
I know you think they can, but you also know deep down they won't.
They won't, but if you were gonna just copy the same music, just use the same, like, the music is something that can be changed. The visuals, though, this is nowhere near as interesting or, like, poignant or important to the show. Like, the intro where you actually build up Westeros would have been different by its own nature if you'd have actually just used it. Although, I guess you couldn't do that for the first few episodes because we are only in King's Landing. So, sometimes we see, like, slightly other places, but we'll just sort of, like, skip over there and we're like, oh, we're here now for this instance, rather than, like, we're taking our time to get there. And I assume at some point in the show we're going to start to explore other parts of Westeros again, rather than just, like, the entire show being in King's Landing. But it wouldn't work for an intro.
Well, can we like calling spades here on the As Always podcast, James?
We certainly do.
Can I say that episode 2 and 3 weren't nearly as good as episode 1?
Interesting.
Can I say that?
Episode 3 was the best one.
Okay. I thought it was okay.
Really?
I thought 3 was the worst one, personally.
Interesting.
There were things I really liked in it, more than 2. Like, to me, 2 was like, 1 was great. I couldn't have been better. I raved and raved and raved about that first episode. The second episode, I was like, okay, little bit of a step down, bit slow. Okay. Episode 3 felt, I don't know. I guess there was just points in it, especially the end, where I was like, this is old. This is like later Game of Thrones. We're rushing through some shit right now. And we haven't really explored things.
Yeah. I
We're
think
not
that's
really exploring, like, crab feed. This is SpoilerCast, full spoilers. Crab feed is dead. Don't know anything about this guy. You know what I mean? I'm like, we really just... And I don't think that whole end sequence was all that good. It was pretty fucking ridiculous.
No, I am with you on that. I think the whole final sequence of that episode is bad. But everything
Rhaenyra's
before that
great.
I thought was
Rhaenyra
really
was
good.
great.
I thought because I said this on Discord, but in episode 1 and 2 I wasn't behind Rhaenyra all that much. I thought she was written pretty. She just didn't feel complex to me. She just felt like very less than all the other characters. It's like she would just do something and she was always right. She'd always just manage it. And I was like, I want to see her go through something. I want to see her realize, you know what? Her arrogance shouldn't be rewarded. It should be like, you know, she should, you know, something should happen then. I think this episode managed to do something with that. I think you see her when she's, you know, the one in charge, when she was like, you know, in episode 1 where she had that strong position as like the only child of her father, like she had like a right to like act in a particular way, and I think like she played into that. And like you see in like episode 2 when she like chooses the Kingsguard guy, and in that scene she sort of is proven right, like that, like Otto is like, no, don't do that because that's not a smart decision, and she's like, well, I think that it is. And then it's like played for like this victory where it's like, well, she should be wrong, maybe, you know, she doesn't know. And that's something that's not yet come to a head. Like, is she gonna be wrong? Maybe they'll do something with that. But I did like the stuff in this episode where she just feels weak, and I think that was just like, because she's not a weak person, she's a very strong-willed, strong person, but the fact that she's not like she just feels weak, like she's not able to act on the fact that she's got this strength, I think was just like really, really well written characterization, and I liked that element of her character in this episode. And you know what they did with the boar towards the end, like, you know, her sort of, you know, that moment of like, it sort of, I felt like she was trying to be able to prove herself to herself almost. That she's got, she can't, even when she's not got a dragon, or even when she's not got that strong position in the family or whatever, because obviously now, you know, her dad has a son. She's still able to, you know, she still has that strength, and I think she's trying to prove it to herself. And I thought that was really good. I thought that whole thing was really good. I loved Rhaenyra's like storyline throughout this episode, and I thought that was just, it's what I've been waiting for, to give her some depth, and I just was really happy with that whole thing. And I thought, like, yeah, I really liked it.
I definitely agree with that. I thought Rhaenyra's storyline in episode 3 was really strong. I loved how it juxtaposed the role of being a king for Viserys. Like, especially with the hunt. Like, she was actually out there and got attacked by a wild boar, and her knight killed it with fucking bare hands, and she got blood on her. Yeah. You know, there was actual risk on her hunt. And she didn't ask for it, was the other big thing. She didn't plan on going for a hunt. It was thrown at her very much like the crown is being thrown at her. But she's being able to prove herself and actually get her hands dirty. Whereas you've got Viserys, who asked to go on this hunt to celebrate Aegon's second birthday, and it's just this poor stag that's just being held there. Now, I also must note, I don't think Viserys is sitting there like proud of himself. You could look in his eye, he's like, fuck. And he's only doing it because, like he keeps saying, tradition. Yeah. I didn't sit there thinking, oh, he thinks he's the man for killing this. He's sitting there like, I don't like doing it, but it's tradition and everyone's fucking watching and I've just got to kill it. I've just got to fucking kill this thing. That's how it feels. And it just shows, it was a perfect example of showing who their characters are to me. Of Viserys being like, look, I don't always like being king, and I might not be the best, like it took him 2 shots to kill it sort of thing. Like, it's perfect example of him as the king. Doesn't really like it all that much, not really the best at it, but just does his duty. And then you've got Rhaenyra, who's like, I don't want to do it, but I'll probably be pretty fucking good at it, but a lot of people aren't going to like it either. It's going to be very polarizing. And I just sort of, it was a perfect description of who they are as characters. And I really like their dynamic in this episode, really came through, of like how complex that father-daughter relationship is and what that could bleed into in the future. Yeah, you're like, in terms of that storyline, fantastic. Damon's been my favorite character in the first 2 episodes, and I thought he was they just sort of did fuck all with him in this one.
It was
Like,
that
yeah.
battle sequence was I didn't
like
I did not
I didn't
like that
it.
for about 5 minutes he was avoiding every arrow that was coming his way. I was like, this is like season 8 Game of Thrones. Like,
thank you. That's what it felt like. It felt like season 8 of Game of Thrones.
Hit anyway. Why didn't you
Three
just
times.
have
Three
him get
times.
hit in the first place instead of dodging all those arrows just to have him get hit at the end? Like, show some vulnerability. If you're gonna write your character into a situation where he is in an open space getting fired at by hundreds of arrows repeatedly, you can't have him not get hit by any of them just until you decide the plot needs that to happen. It was so unbelievable.
And the crab feeder's just in this cave the whole time, and the dragon couldn't get him.
Yeah, I guess so. You could breathe fire in the
Damon
cave.
can just walk in after he got shot 3 times with arrows, once in like the back of the leg, and he just carved him in half and walked out.
Yeah, and it just felt like
there were all those archers on the cliffs, but the dragons came and killed them, and I'm like, why was it that hard to do that in the first place? I just didn't understand.
yeah, the dragon could have been there straight away. Like,
there's 2 dragons. This is not a competition. This is not a fight. Yeah. Why is this tough for them?
Like, where did those archers come from? Were they always out in the open up there? Why weren't they killed in the first place?
And they weren't going to do anything to the dragon, and they tried to establish they would at the start. I'm like, no, it didn't hurt the dragon.
No, the dragon was fine.
The dragon's fucking fine. Arrows aren't going to fucking hurt it from regular bow and arrows.
Damon's the one that got hit with the arrow. It was like, oh, let's get out of here.
But also, felt like nothing. Like, I love the reaction to the letter in the sense of, like, he realized that his brothers pitied him because he was that much of a failure, that his brother's going to come help him when he didn't want it.
Yeah.
And then he's like, I'm doing this on my fucking own. Like, loved all that. And then when it got to the actual battle, I thought it was terrible. I actually thought it was terrible.
Yeah.
It felt like season 8 of Game of Thrones. It felt like all the things I don't like about Game of Thrones. And then you've got the crab feeder, who seemed like they were starting to treat as an interesting villain. And I'm like, oh, never mind. He's a bitch. He's a bitch.
Yeah, and I think like the biggest issue I guess I have is just like, obviously we know Damon's a main character, but making him a main character in the world in the sense that he's like bulletproof, I didn't vibe with that. It was just really cringe.
Oh, there's no vibe. There's no vibe. That was not a vibe.
It was
vibe check, not.
Yeah. It's the fun thing about Game of Thrones season 1 to 4. It was no character was ever safe. Like, every character had the same vulnerability as any random person. Like, they weren't safe because of plot. They were just written so well that they were just a regular person, that, you know, they had no plot armor. Whereas later seasons of Game of Thrones, they just got more and more and more plot armor. Because the writing got worse and worse and worse. And this is just another example of that, and it was just really rough. And hopefully, like, enough people criticize it so that, you know, they don't do that again. But you don't know. I mean, we've still got another season to go, like this whole season to go. Obviously, it's done. So, you know, there's no fixing it for the rest of the season. So who knows if they pull something like that again. I guess we'll see. But yeah, that I liked the whole episode, and I think everything else was so strong that I can overlook that final battle being pretty downright bad. Just because I think the rest of the episode did what I was really looking for the first 2. So
I get it. Like, I don't think the episode was bad. I thought that part was bad. I thought everything before it was great.
Yeah.
Alison Hightower's a fucking bitch, though. Fuck her off.
Why?
Oh, straight away I was like, this fucking bitch. She's gonna take your job. Rhaenyra, she's gonna fucking take it.
She's doing her best, though. She's doing her best to, like, you know, prop up Rhaenyra and be like, no, she deserves it, you know? She believes in her.
She's a fucking... Yeah, she only believes in her now that she's queen and pumped up a couple of kids. Fuck Rhaenyra. Not Rhaenyra. Fucking Alicent. Fuck her off.
No,
I hope Rhaenyra fucking bakes her later. I hope she fucking bakes her later. That's what I hope, yeah. And it will happen, I hope. It will fucking happen.
No, she's great.
And Rhaenyra's definitely in love with her. We know that, right? We established that in the last episode of the Spoilercast.
We did, yeah. We did talk about that.
Because there was definitely hints there Rhaenyra had feelings. And that's why I feel like she's so upset by this. I felt like she was in love with her. But now I'm vibing that she's in love with the fucking knight as well.
Oh, yeah,
like,
true.
got that
Yeah,
sense
she is as well, yeah.
Episode. Yeah. And definitely got that sort of wild thing going on.
Yeah,
with
that knight needs to turn out to be bad. That's my hot take, I guess.
Why is that?
Because she picked him, and it's got to be she was wrong. She's got to have been wrong about it. Because then
so far
it's got to be so far he's been good, but I think he's too nice.
But do you not think it's just very much like a very Daenerys thing where picks loyal, because she picked him, he will be loyal to her? It's a very Game of Thrones thing. It's not even just Daenerys, really. These characters that people pick, it's not necessarily they're good or bad, it's just they stay loyal.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely. But I also would like it to just be wrong. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's been too long though with the time jump. It's been 3 years. If she's wrong, she's gonna be like, I don't even remember why I made that decision in the first place. I was a different person. It's already then.
And I'm pretty sure next episode's another
exactly. So it's I don't think you can actually.
I mean, they're changing actors. I'm pretty sure in the next couple of episodes.
They are. Yeah, I think it's after episode 4. I don't know. Which is a shame because I like these actors.
So do I. It sort of sucks.
Yeah,
because it's just Alicent and Rhaenyra and the 2 children of the sea snake.
Yeah, which they don't matter so much. But I guess Alicent and Rhaenyra. I like them both. Especially I really like Rhaenyra after this episode, and it'll be a shame to see her swapped out. But I guess has to happen, I suppose.
I'm sure the actresses that play the older versions will be great also.
Yeah, I'm sure they will. But talking about Alicent and Rhaenyra though, I do think the time jumps have not served their relationship super well.
I agree with that. It just feels really disconnected by that third episode.
So it's so they've skipped 3 years now, and it's so did they have they not spoke to each other at all in that period? Because it seems like the conflict is happening now, and it's have they not worked anything out? They've not talked to each other. No,
I know it's very disconnected.
Yeah, it's odd. The first one worked because it was 6 months. You can believe that.
And they were still close. Years? They were praying together, and there were still things going on. Yeah.
Yeah, but 3 years is that's a long time, and we're only exploring that now. Did nothing happen before?
Yeah. I can believe there's father-daughter tension still, but it's hard to believe her and Alicent haven't had a conversation about this yet.
Yeah, and they've just been ignoring each other, and Alicent seems annoyed. It doesn't have to be like this, Rhaenyra, and it's been 3 years. Has she been ignoring you this whole time? I feel like you'd just be used to it by now.
Yeah, I agree.
You seem a bit shocked.
Yeah, it's weird. It's fucking weird.
Yeah, so I don't know if the time jumps are serving the show great, and I suppose they're doing it to establish a lot of core history for these characters and everything. So when they get into the main part of the plot,
the main conflict that is to come.
We're caught up to speed on everybody and their standing and who they are, and the history they've had with each other. Which I guess is important. I don't know whether you could have just jumped straight into the main plot and have just filled us in contextually. But I suppose there is a lot to go over, and if it's very important to the plot, then I guess it makes sense that you would want to really fill us in and let us know and see the development. But I guess only time will tell. I guess when they do that final time jump, you'd think that's when they're caught up. When they swap out the actors, they'll be like, this is now where we are now. Or maybe not. Maybe they'll keep jumping. I don't really know.
Yeah. I feel like it's going to time jump the whole season, to be honest. I feel like this whole season will be time jumps.
Yeah.
Because I feel like they're trying to tell a big story, and they weren't sure how many seasons they were going to get, and they were just banking on getting as much into one season as they could. That's how I'm starting to feel. That's how I'm starting to feel about it. And it's a way for them to... It can work because it's a way for them to tell a lot of story in a few episodes and not rush within the episodes too much. But then again, it did it with this one with the crab feeder, a 3-year war, and they just it felt like, oh shit, this is going to continue on to the next episode. But it's no, because we know there's going to be a time jump, we need to wrap this up this episode, so Damon has to deal with this now. And then they just rushed it. That's how it felt. It
Yeah,
suffered again. A storyline suffered from the time jump. That's another storyline that suffered from the time jump.
Yeah,
And a future time jump.
To an extent, I think that conflict itself, while it suffered, I also feel like that conflict itself wasn't the important part. It was more the
I get it. It was about the Viserys and Daemon
character
relationship.
stuff.
Yeah.
And but in a better story, you would do both well.
Exactly.
Both would be good.
Yes, correct.
Because it's like when you look at Game of Thrones, you look at the Battle of the Bastards, for example, like that. It's it's not just the character stuff that's good there. It's also the battle's good as well, and it's been built up to, and like there's which is one of the good parts from post season 4.
I stand by season 6. I love season 6. I thought it was a great season.
I just felt
season 6, episode 9 and 10 are my favorite 2 episodes of all of Game of Thrones.
I just felt Game of Thrones was its best.
Battle of the Bastards, the set blowing up, bro.
Slow,
I get it, but I just felt like the climax of Game of Thrones for me was season 6, and after that, it was like, we don't give a shit anymore. It still felt like they cared in season 6, at least.
I think it still felt like they cared. I just don't think it was as good. I think that they just weren't very good at it. There's some good stuff in there, but overall,
it was just certain characters, because I'm just a Jon Snow cuck. So Jon Snow's best season was 6 for me.
But they also did that awesome. He dies and then he gets resurrected instantly.
I love it. Loved it.
I think in hindsight, I'm like, just
week to week at the time, where we had to wait a year, and then it was week to week, and everyone's reactions to him come back to life. I loved it.
But we all knew it was going to happen. We all knew.
But we didn't. But we wish I needed to see. I was like, I need to know that I'm right. And I'm not 100% sure. I was 99% sure. I just need to see it. And then I went and watched everyone's reaction online. I just loved it. It's what I loved about Game of Thrones being week to week. It's what I love about this show being week to week. Every Monday that it's on, because in Australia it comes out 11 a.m. on a Monday. But every Monday night for the last 3 weeks, I've had a bunch of my mates come around. We order pizzas and we watch Game of Thrones. It's been fucking tremendous. It took us 3 hours to get through that fucking episode, though, because we had so much trouble ordering fucking Domino's. It was a disaster. But because they fucked up last week, we got a voucher. We tried to use that. We realized we had to start the order again, use their link, and then it timed out. We had to start the order a third time. It was a disaster. And we just kept pausing. We realized after 2 hours, we'd only got through 20 minutes of this fucking episode of Game of Thrones. Like, oh my God.
That's classic.
But anyway, but I'm just loving that you chat with your friends about it. My mates come around, we sit down, we watch it, we talk about it, and then we're all watching Alt Shift X on YouTube again, like the old days, and we're getting his lore videos again, and I'm like, this is fucking awesome. It just feels like Game of Thrones days that I enjoyed. And look, it doesn't have to be the greatest show ever made. It's still a great show, and I don't want to shit on it too much, because I still really liked episode 2 and episode 3. There were just things that I'm like, okay, it's not as good as the first episode. That first episode was a phenomenal start. It couldn't have been better. 2 was just steadily okay throughout.
Just fine, yeah.
3 was a coin flip of half was great and the other half was not.
Yeah.
And it was the first time it's been any bad at all to me in that show. And I still think Matt Smith's performance as Damon's fucking spot on. I just think the writing for him wasn't great in that third episode whatsoever.
No, yeah, for sure. I'm with you. And I think the show is still very good. It's not even close to overall close to those later seasons of Game of Thrones. No. This is very, very, very strong. It's just
we don't have as much investment for it to get that bad as well. Because imagine if you'd had 6 seasons of build up to Crab Feeder and that was the ending.
Oh, you know what I mean? That would have been worse. That would have been so much worse.
Yeah.
Oh, that would have been so sad.
Yeah. It's only because it's it's only the third episode, so it felt.
And it's a conflict that doesn't matter. You're like, oh,
yeah,
all right,
we can move on. But let's not pretend it wasn't rushed, because if it was Game of Thrones season 7 or 8, it would have fit in perfectly. That's it, because that's sort of how it felt.
It was bad.
Let's call a spade a spade. That's what we do in this fucking podcast. That's what we do.
Yep. Yeah. The rest of the show though has been great. The rest of the show's been great. That's the only bit that's been okay, that was bad. I was watching it and I was like, oh no.
Yes.
But as soon as those arrows came flying, I was like, oh no. And they just kept coming. They kept coming. And I was like, come on, dude. Come on. And then all of the guys fucking
Season
swarmed
8,
him.
baby.
And they just
Season
stand
8,
there.
baby.
They're like, oh, let's wait for the dragon to come and get us. that just
And we
hasn't
all knew
been
it was
here
coming
for
to.
some
I'm
reason.
like, okay, we know this is the dragon.
It was so gratuitous. Like the camera slows down. It's like panning around. It's like this epic moment. It's like, no.
We've seen it all before. You know, didn't you get that moment of like when they go beyond the wall and Daenerys comes and saves them?
Yeah.
Season 7. That's the vibes I got. I was like, here we go.
It was just
and
like
then the fire comes from off the shot, so it's sort of on an off angle to try to surprise you. I'm like, you didn't surprise me. Again, don't want to shit on it because I still really enjoy House of the Dragon. I can't wait for next week. Really excited. I'm liking the length of the episodes, that they're a solid hour. That's been great. I hope that continues. Viserys, really love the character. Hate him, but like in the way you're supposed to hate him because he's a dumb fuck.
Yeah.
But also you can tell he's got a good heart. He's just not meant to be king.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
And yeah, he's a good guy. Deep down, he actually gives a shit about his daughter, wants her to be happy, and genuinely has love and care for his family. So I like him, but he's ultra flawed as well, and definitely shouldn't be king. And his flaws as a king are going to cause a lot of conflict in the way he handles his daughter, which he's trying. And that's the same with Daemon, the way he's handling his brother's not good. Because again, he's trying to do the right thing, but it's backfiring. He wanted to go help Daemon, thought it would be the right thing to do, and it's going to actually be a huge rift in their relationship.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's my thoughts. All three main characters in terms of Viserys, Rhaenyra, Daemon, really great characters and great acting by all so far. Like I'm enjoying all the storylines. It's just been a couple of plot issues.
Yeah.
That we've discussed.
Yeah.
Was there anything from those 2 episodes you wanted to dive into?
No, I feel like we've kind of, because the thing with these episodes, and I think it's what's so good about them, is although they do a time jump, each episode slows down for that snippet of the time we get to see.
Which is why it's been done well, other than, again, the one battle.
Yeah. And it just works well to then explore that snippet of their life and like what's the important character moment that they learn here, and how does that then characterize them to then, establish something for when they get to the bit where we're going to slow down and not jump around so much. So yeah, just like there's not like these huge standout moments. It's just like this very continuous, like subtle, well done storytelling throughout like the length of an episode. And I think that's what makes it probably so strong. Because I think they've established and they've shown that even though they're going to do time jumps, they are going to take their time. So I think it bodes well for when they stop doing time jumps, that they're really going to be able to take their time with this and work through it and progress it naturally and stuff, which will be nice.
I can't wait for episode 10 of season 3 when they're all 85 years old.
They just keep time jumping. They keep doing it. All the characters are just dead from old age. We're on the next set of characters.
Well, there's no actual, I don't think you know this, but I've read all the books. There's no conflict that really happens in this show. So they're just actually going through their lives until they die of old age peacefully.
Yeah,
a lot of hand holding. I'm pretty sure season 4 is a musical. That's what I'm hearing.
I can't wait. Just like Joker 2. What? Yeah.
With Lady Gaga.
Yeah. It's going to be a banger. Can't wait.
Yeah. Is it still Todd Phillips directing it too? So.
Yeah, I think so.
What's he basing it off? If the first one was off Taxi Driver, what's he basing this one off? La La Land?
High School Musical. I don't know.
Yeah, hopefully.
Grease.
Yeah. Oh God. Is there anything else in the news? I guess then is that it? Are we nice short sharp episode there? Felt like we got through a lot though. It didn't feel. I'm looking at the time I've been recording. It's not that long, but we've gotten through a lot of content.
I feel like we had a good concise talk. We're getting good at this.
It's taken 8 years. This show's 8 years old now.
We're finally
Shout
getting
out to
good.
the As Always podcast that is over 8 years old now. Happy birthday to it.
Yeah.
Just last week turned 8, which is pretty fucking crazy.
Yeah.
And then we've got 4 Pillars podcast next week in Clubhouse, and then I'm away. And then I see you in person next.
Hell
next
yeah.
one we do will be in person. So
Sweet.
after 3 years. So that's exciting.
Yeah, nice. So wait, so what does that mean? Does that mean we're gonna have to skip a week of it, which means we're gonna have like 4 episodes to go over next time, or not next time, but the time after that?
I guess.
So we'll do 4 and 5.
Well, I mean, now, like, we were running off a fucking Blue Yeti and USB mics last time. You've got mixers and multiple mics now, obviously.
I have, yeah.
So it'll be way easier to record this time around when I, like, that's great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that would mean if next episode we do 4 and 5, the episode after we'll do 6, 7, 8, and 9. Right?
Well, no, we're not doing 4 and 5 because I won't be here the next As Always podcast.
Oh, so you're not here next at all? Oh, wait.
No,
so that means...
I go Friday next week. I fly.
Right. So, hang on. Yeah. So, how many weeks have we got between... So, how many episodes do we have? We've got 4, 5, 6, and then...
I'm with
7?
you from the 3rd of October.
Yes, which is when episode 7 comes out, right?
We're gonna have a lot to talk about.
Yeah,
it'll all be Game of Thrones. It'll all be Game of Thrones.
Wow.
And then we'll have to do a clubhouse in person as well. And then a 4 Pillars
4 episodes. That'll be crazy. And then there'll be a few episodes of Rings of Power as well, which we can go over. But I doubt that'll be as in depth as.
I'll just have to use your office and do my Rings of Power podcast.
Oh yeah. There you go.
That'd be so weird for you not to be there, and I'm in your office doing a video.
I kind of want to do it because everyone will be like,
do it.
Yeah, you have to, because everyone will be like, "Oh, I need to see Tyler make a video at James's office," and they'll watch it anyway.
Yeah. I sort of want to do it out of just the novelty of doing it.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah,
it'd be good.
Amazing. All right. Well, that's it. We've done it. We've smashed through this episode of the As Always podcast. Thanks everyone for tuning in, for listening, for watching. Be sure to rate us on all your podcast services. Like the video here on the 4 Pillars Network on YouTube. Subscribe to the 4 Pillars Network and stay up to date with obviously this podcast, the 4 Pillars podcast, and my Rings of Power lore episode breakdowns as well. Go check out and support that first one. Would greatly appreciate it. And of course, thank you to the great people over at patreon.com/as always for making the show happen. We wouldn't be here without you. And for as little as $1 a month, you get exclusive access to the best podcast on the internet, ladies and gentlemen. So if you're not doing it, go do it. It's super cheap. Over 145 episodes of it. And you can come on travel adventures with us. It's the best segment ever. It may be the greatest segment we've ever come up with. And I'm not joking. Really I absolutely love doing it. I wish we could do more than one an episode. It's so fucking funny.
It's great. It's the best.
My favorite part's coming up with the names we come up with for the episode titles.
Oh yeah.
And the way I came up with this last episode, you weren't there. It was winner win. You know the phrase winner winner chicken dinner. I'm not. That might be an Australian thing.
No, I know. Yeah, it's not.
So I went to this cafe in the town of Winner in South Dakota, and on the sign it said chicken dinners. And I was like, winner winner chicken dinner. I was like, oh, that's perfect. Fucking perfect.
It writes itself.
Yeah, right. I was like, this is the easiest title of all time. Because I just said it. I just literally said winner, winner, chicken dinner. I'm like, oh, that's the title. Hold on. Let me write it down.
Perfect.
But yeah, head over there. Check it out. Thank you, everyone, for supporting us. And at the $5 tier and above, you get on the credits at the end of every podcast. So thank you to Baron Keen, Damien the Top Orange Gnome, Ferentino, Flash Paradox, King Richard III, Albrecht, Ryan Hafer, Ballsack 47, Aragon, Kimber Summer Gamer, Cream Pies, hashtag Make the Nice Guys 2, Please for the Love of Fuck Hollywood, Adam Sundling, Alfie Rodbert, Andrew, Big Dick, 66909, Ben Higgins, and Thankful for Stick Brethren, Benedict Clobbers, BFHC, Biggest Fucking Virgin, Bodge, BQ Overlord, The Elder Brian Ford, Call Me Daddy, Callum, aka I used to be the Theftmas, but then I took an arrow to the knee, Christian 0210, Disciple Alaric, Eli, Radito Hacker, Ethan Dean, That Fuck Cock, Fishy, Furious Coco, Gene, Give Me a Penis, Geeko Swag, Gwen Hughes, Hamid the Weeb, Jack DG 1998, Jaden B. Bennett, Joe the Founder Scarab, John Lang, Josh Duvillier, Josh J. Anderson, Josh Ramora, Kid Ghostly, Liam Loden, Lucas R05, Lumistrad, Mario 5380, Master Bass, Max H, Muddy Unicorn, Nick Miller, Otico World 7, Best of Ever Mod Brownie, Play the Rules, Radok, Ravjar, Son of a Bitch, OG Doggo, Sparky Buck, Spellin' Drunk, The Blue Cow, Tom Welling, Simp, Tony Walshy, and Zeppo. Thank you, sweet vintage lads, for helping power this podcast. We will see you next week for right here on the 4 Pillars Network for another episode of the 4 Pillars podcast, another breakdown for the Rings of Power from me, and on Patreon for another episode of the Clubhouse podcast. Thank you, everyone, and goodbye.
See you later, everybody.